Nah, no way. No. Okay, so it's been a while since we've gone over a juicy trade idea that was tossed out there in the community and that picked up some traction. But I stumbled upon one on my Twitter timeline and I was like, okay, well, this is popular enough and enough people are angry about this that I think it's okay to make a video about. So, let's head over onto Twitter and read what Maxime Van Hoot has to say in regards to the Montreal Canadiens and the Calgary Flames. Now, Maxime talks a lot about hockey on his Twitter. He also has his own show, so big shout out over to your boy Max. I'm assuming that's what it means, translated from French into English, so big shout out over to that. But he did make a tweet the other day that got a lot of traction, and I wanted to read this out here to you on the channel. So, Maxime said he received this idea in his DMs. A trade between the Montreal Canadiens and the Calgary Flames, wherein the Canadiens would receive Jonathan Huberdeau, his $10.5 million contract for 8 seasons, and his 57 points in 91 games with Calgary. And the Calgary Flames would receive Brendan Gallagher, his $6.5 million AAV contract for 4 years, and Josh Anderson, and his $5.5 million contract for another 4 years. Let's say the players say yes. Which team says no, and pourquoi? The replies go out there and talks about a whole bunch of stuff. Calgary would definitely say no, Montreal would not want to do this, stuff like that. It's all in French, so it's an interesting read to get more of a scoop into the ideas of francophone hockey fans. Not that it's completely inaccessible, it's just a little bit difficult to find if you only speak English on Twitter. But this was an interesting enough idea that I wanted to talk about it here today. Maxime also replies to his own tweet saying this: Montreal probably says no. I love Huberdeau, but his contract looks like one of the worst in the salary cap era right now. It seems like magical thinking that a simple change of scenery would put him back. Now here's the thing with Jonathan Huberdeau. Sure, this is a guy that has declined so drastically. We're always talking about the decline from Florida to Calgary, 60-point drop-off, huge right there. Now this season he is on pace for 41 points. He's only got 6 points in 12 games. But the playing style of Jonathan Huberdeau is one that I think hasn't really been acknowledged much as to how this entire downfall has happened. We'd brought it up a few times, saying that, hey, Jonathan Huberdeau can do the break-in on-the-rush offense in Florida, and he was able to do that really well. But in Calgary, because their break-ins are a little bit different and they don't like to do on-the-rush offense as much, he's really getting affected by that. In fact, this is what Friedman said on 32 Thoughts the other day, too. We interviewed Chris Tanev tonight, and one of the things he talked about was that it's a year in, and Jonathan Huberdeau is still recognizing how much different it is to play in the West. Like, some of the stuff he does in the Eastern Conference, he can't do. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people would respond to that saying, what? Like, how is the hockey different? Like, you're in the same league. Literally, you're all in the same NHL, so how is the hockey so drastic that you go from 115 points to 55 the next year after a trade, and after a $10.5 million AAV payday? Like, how is it so bad that that's the case here? Well, we have made a few videos just kind of going over the situation and trying to answer that the best that we can, but essentially, Jonathan Huberdeau getting moved to the Montreal Canadiens would put him back in the Eastern Conference. Now, I'm not smart enough to understand if the Montreal Canadiens being in the East automatically makes this Jonathan Huberdeau playing style that he perfected in Florida effective again, but if you wanted to assume that's the case, I don't think that's the most illogical thing in the world. Jonathan Huberdeau is a Quebec superstar, or at least he's paid like one, and so heading over to the Montreal Canadiens, that's always seemed like something that could be a possibility because any francophone that is in the NHL always has ties to the Habs. But heading over to Calgary in this trade idea, Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher? Oh boy, I don't know if the Calgary Flames say yes, to be honest. Like, Josh Anderson, as we had talked about the other day, has been a total anchor for this team. Like, I'm sorry, Josh, he is a good person, probably. He was acquired by Montreal in the Max Domi trade, given a big extension, and we all thought for a brief moment that it would actually work out. But he's got 1 point in 13 games this season, 0 goals. He had 21 goals in 69 games last year. This year, he's on pace for 0. Like, things have not been good for Josh Anderson, and he's making 5.5 mil to the end of 26-27. I'm not gonna say that there weren't any red flags when Anderson was acquired by the Canadiens, but I will say that I was a believer. I wanted to believe in the positive, wanted to say the good things and say, yeah, like, he was good in Columbus when he was healthy, so as long as we give Anderson the time to recover, he's probably gonna be an effective player in Montreal, right? Well, I don't know if that's really the case now. But Josh Anderson still plays a very north-south type of game. Very power forward-like qualities and a rawness that hasn't really helped him with the Montreal Canadiens this season. He is so raw in being able to just drive to the front of the net with the puck and not really do anything else that I'm not too sure how that would work with the Calgary Flames and their style. We've already seen how the on-the-rush offense has completely depleted Jonathan Huberdeau's game. What more for a guy like Josh Anderson, who seems to make his living, his bread and butter, on that rush? I mean, it'd be kind of annoying for the rest of the Pacific teams to have a guy like Josh Anderson enter the conference and be given a prominent middle to top six role. I don't want my players to be going up and rubbing shoulders with that guy, because he's a big physical dude, like he can do things like that. Meanwhile, for Brendan Gallagher, he is an absolute pest. Feisty guy, used to be a lot more effective than he has been recently, although I will say he actually has gotten off to a pretty good start in 23-24, 7 points in 13 games played, on pace for about 44 points, which would be the best season he's ever had in like 4 years. So, I mean, look, Brendan Gallagher, underdog story of the decade for Montreal, 5th round pick, he eventually made the team, became one of the best players on the team, 30-goal guy consistently. We all knew his playstyle was going to fade away eventually. Like, there's no way he could continue being the net front, super agitative, always getting into arguments, always getting under the opponent's skin type of guy at only 5'9" and continue like this for his entire career. Like, admittedly, it's already been a decade. He's already been like this for 10 plus years, and he's 31, so good longevity there. It's just, Brendan Gallagher is such a bang and crash type of player that there was no way he would ever be able to consist of that for an entire career. We're starting to already see him lose some effectiveness in that respect, but at the end of the day, Brendan Gallagher is still a talented player. He's still better than Josh Anderson, I'd say. I mean, he's on pace for the same amount of points, if not just a little bit more points than Jonathan Huberdeau is right now, so maybe that's technically an upgrade. The Montreal Canadiens also are paying Gallagher $6.5 million a season till the end of 2027. And so if you wanted to say that Gallagher is already more beneficial or already more important, better even, than a guy like Jonathan Huberdeau, I could understand why the Montreal Canadiens would say no in this type of a situation. Hey, our guy's already outscoring your guy by however many points. Is Josh Anderson really that much of a negative asset that you would want to do this? I mean, you could make the debate. I definitely understand where it's coming from here. If you think, okay, Gallagher's better than Huberdeau, and then Anderson is a negative, so it kind of equalizes, that doesn't make no sense in my opinion. Meanwhile, for the Calgary Flames, they would not want to go out there and give up on their $10.5 million superstar so quickly, but if it's a trade like this where you're getting a player who's technically better, and you're getting another hard-nosed power forward, I mean, it's not the dumbest thing in the world, but at the same time, I don't know if the Calgary Flames would be fully willing to commit to the idea that their Jonathan Huberdeau experiment didn't work out. They lost out on Tkachuk, a 100-point guy in back-to-back years, for this scenario. I mean, having Nazem Kadri and Brendan Gallagher on the same team would be a nightmare, like even more so for these Pacific teams, and then Josh Anderson on top of that. The Calgary Flames haven't really got much going for them anyway, so maybe they'll need that physical leadership kind of element to spark some sort of a drive for this team, but either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this entire idea tossed around on Twitter by Maxime Van Hoot? Jonathan Huberdeau for Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. Is this an idea that you think is worth thinking about? Who says yes? Who says no? There were a bunch of varying replies out of the 50,000 that saw this on Twitter. Bunch of people saying yes, bunch of people saying no, bunch of people saying that the Canadiens or the Flames would equally say no. So I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your opinions about this entire trade idea. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.